But as far as switching gears, this dressing thing,
Oh yeah, please speak on that.
this you know part of the reason people reject any kind of code is because people want to do what they want to do. They want to do what they want to do, and they want to tell you that not all. I posted on Instagram today. Not all is not an effective or winning argument. They want to always fit through this gray area and see what it means is a life without structure and discipline. And what it means is a life that you can be your own little God. You are God, and when you no rules, you're God in your life. Because you know there was a time in this world where when we gave our vows, they meant something. There was a time where people really believed in the deities we talk about, we believe in, to where you didn't need someone to tell you you shouldn't do it. It was like you had that relationship. But now it's to the point to where mankind, we're in the process of making ourselves our own gods, to where these are just guidelines. So, and you can't get upset that as a woman, I don't think women are going to want the world they're talking about. You don't want a world where rules are just this fluid, because you get the kind of men you're talking about right now. Because the reason men civilized the world in general and done our part is because they wanted to have access to a woman, and soul access and committed access. Men are territorial. But if men are starting to learn that, you know what, if it's fluid like this, if she's not going to stay, or if I do A, B, or C, if everything's always up for grabs and you never know, and there's nothing that's even any further, that's any firm, there's no ground, there's no principle, there's no nothing. What's the motivation for people to do anything? So this is what happens. In the 90s, we started with this business casual work environment. And the thought was, go away from this convention and this whole thing to have a genderless work environment, make people more happy and more productive. And what they noticed was employees were more relaxed at work, they were more comfortable. And the thought process was they will be more productive. It went the opposite direction. The data is in. And prior to coronavirus, the corporate environment was attacking back towards business professional dress codes. If you've ever worked in a place where they had jean Wednesdays or whatever, I worked in a place where they actually have pajama day. Pajama day. Now, see, but Ameera would show up in pajamas was going to be straight up flannel, a robe, some furry slippers. But you know what I'm going to say, Miss Kaya. You know what I'm going to say. In that same call center, here comes Shirley in some Victoria's Secretions. In a call center. Because to her, that was her pajamas.
No.
I mean, I want you to understand, go back in the 60s when we actually looked at our people and said we had, on college campuses, you saw young men in shirts and slacks and hard-soled shoes and a tie. You go to, when's the last time you've been to the airport? It's this disgusting. Lounge pajamas, big tops, bonnets, flip-flop. I mean, it's like people, when you take off the rules, the lowest common denominator is debauchery and chaos. Is that the world we really want? Now, I'm 52, and I hammer this all the time. There's a time and place for everything. But I'm sorry, you go out in a mall on the average weekend, and you look at the average 40-year-old father and his 5th grade son, and they dress the same. Graphic t-shirt, jeans, sneakers, ball cap. And you couldn't do that in 1970. The men look like men and the boys look like boys. And another thing is because dress codes denote gender roles. Skirts, dresses, pants, however you want it, there's more feminine ways of being. And see, the thought process was let people do what they want to. Now you got men in goddamn dresses and women in pants. I mean, is that what we really want? This country is being weakened from the inside because we're taking away all gender roles and all sense of right and wrong. And we're basically saying, you don't cancel anybody, let everybody express themselves to the level of what? That each person is Zeus in their own life. We're losing. And we're losing because the first thing we lose with all these lack of roles is the very thing we just spent so much time talking about. There is a big correlation between image and family. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. Is like, how does the image consultant end up talking about relationships? Because our individual images play so much of a role in our position facing life, in our personal relationships and our professional relationships. So
I thank you so much for taking your time out of your busy day for doing this.
you're welcome.
And that's the main point that I wanted to get to. And I wanted to speak about the rules and why they're there and why they shouldn't be rules. It should be automatic. But a lot of people don't feel the same way. And this is what I was speaking about Miss Kaya about, that she doesn't believe in the rules.
Well, we're in the same age cohort. I understand why she doesn't believe in the rules, because our parents were baby boomers. Our parents' generation was the 60s generation of civil rights march. They were coming of age, free love, all the birth control, Roe v. Wade, all these things happened in second wave feminism. Our parents' generation looked at their parents' generation, the silent generation, the ones that went to World War II, and the greatest generation, the one that survived the Great Depression, all this stuff. That generation looked at those women as they were fools because they were cleaning somebody else's house. They were sitting in the back of the book. They felt like they turned their backs. There's a book called, I don't want to, Imitation of Life is about somebody passing. But in general, the baby boomer generation thought women were foolish, and they misinterpreted a lot of things they saw. They thought that their mothers, if they had education and this and that, they wouldn't have had to do da-da-da. Not understanding that, like you said, in the Middle East, you guys think because women are repressed according to Western standards that they're so unhappy. It's like, no, they're happy at home with their families and their children and this and that. Sure, it costs them over here, but overall, you're safe, you're this, you're that. We had a better world when we had gender roles because women understood what their job was, men understood what their job was. So we don't get a situation to where Kaya can marry a guy who's sitting at home. Men would have regulated him out of the marriage pool. There's no way he could even had a wife back then. We would have regulated him out of there. There's no way you could have come up to Daddy Kaya, talk about, I want your daughter's hand in marriage. What?
Not Daddy Kaya.
But that's the point. When we actually had rules, when a man was supposed to be what he was supposed to be, and the main thing we lost is our church. When the church flipped to this prosperity gospel, and we got this whole injection of feminism, and around in the 60s and 70s, it hit the Black community right where it lived, in the religious core. Now our church don't even look the same anymore because of a lot of things we're talking about. That's why I wanted to join in here, because I have a pretty unique perspective on both. But anyway, the comment section ought to be rocking.
Very much. Oh, one last thing, Kevin. One last thing. So this is another reason why I speak against the role reversals, the gender role reversals, because you see how in Miss Kaya's situation, she was okay with it in the beginning, but eventually women grow to hate you. They start to hate you after a while. This is not proper. And all those people saying that we can have men be stay-at-home dads and the mom go, it doesn't work in the long term, because women naturally, it just doesn't work for us. We start to resent you.
It goes against your biology. That's why the richer sex and the end of men. Read those two books. You'll understand that this, and see, in order to have women in leadership, power positions, and in order to keep a family, you have to have a man in the supportive role. And the women who chose to go out and do this, it was assumed that they would take a man in a supportive role, and they did.
Right.
But what was not factored into it was evolutionary biology, that it is a woman's evolutionary nature to despise men who are not viewed as protectors, this, that, because your biology tells you your DNA shouldn't be in the next generation. But by that time, it's too late. Your DNA has evolved, because I want you guys to understand, if we went back 5,000 years ago, right?
Mm.
A woman can only have one child a year. And the most vulnerable thing, there's a pregnant woman is vulnerable. In a tribe, in a village, no matter what, a child is a significant investment. So before birth control and all this other kind of stuff, women had to truly, truly guard their womb, because being impregnated by a non-provider protector male risked your life, risked your children's life, risked everybody. That's why there were so many stops and starts and guards on this kind of stuff. This is why grape and all those other kind of offenses were like, you could be killed for that, because you're not supposed to, you haven't earned the right to go there. You're supposed to have to, oh, you want my daughter? You need to work 7 years for me.
Mm-hmm.
What? Yeah, you want my daughter? You got to work 7 years for me. That's in our Bible too, remember?
Mm-hmm.
Then after 7 years, here's the daughter. Oh, the one you want, you got to work 7 more years. But then you finally get the one you want, because men had to work to have access. But now, because we're trying to have this egalitarian society where everything goes, we still don't get down to the primitive hindbrain. And that's where the whole 7 seconds, people make 11 different assumptions about you to stick. That's down in our primitive hindbrain. Everything I talk about really comes from evolutionary biology and the fundamental animal nature of people. I just have a way of communicating it to where I can take the complex concept like that, make it simple. But bottom line is, Ameera, you're right. Ladies, you will eventually evolve to despise a lesser man. I'll give you an example, Kai. Give you an example. There's a man, whether you're in the mood or not, there is the kind of man that could walk up to you in the bar and say, hey, how you doing? Man, I like your lips. And you'd be like, and you cuss him out, say some kind of shit, blah, blah, blah. But then there's that dude that can walk up to you and you everything about your body, you're like, oh, he can say, damn, I like them lips. And you'd be like, even your rejection would be different. And there are countless videos on YouTube where men who are more sexually select are approaching the same woman as a non-sexually select man approaching the same woman. And you can look at the differences. It's biological. So thanks for being a good sport. I know that probably wasn't easy, but I think it can be helpful. But I'm serious about therapy. I think it would be good. I think we all need therapy in the Black community, because we didn't get taught the kind of stuff, and we carry too much guilt for making wrong decisions. That's one of the worst things of Generation X. We carry a lot of goddamn guilt for things we weren't taught.
Well, I thank you, and I do appreciate it. And I honestly, I wasn't looking at it that way. And like I said, it wasn't my intention, but I totally hear you. And I will do some self-reflection, of course. And I won't do that anymore. That's for sure.
Self-awareness is 2022 is going to be a lot about self-awareness and interactions. So this is good.